Hey, this is Neil's on Dynasty. Buy some silver, platinum, crystallized osmium. Don't listen to me. Everything I or we say is taken as bullcrap. This is for fun, not for profit or health. All disclaimers out of the way. Let's get into the 30-second commercial. All right, what would y'all like to talk about first? Let's see, what do I have here? I have lightning. I have some other interesting geopolitical stuff. So we'll go with the geopolitical stuff first because it just happened. So let me go to present, share screen. Here we go. This will be fun. Let me turn the volume up. We'll do a little talking about this one after it's over with. So do full screen here, come back over here. Where's full screen at? There it is. Full screen layout here. Go back over here and let's see what they have to say.
Get Senate seats in red states. Ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be a red state in California as Trump administration officials have effectively taken over Los Angeles. Trump sent in the Marines, the National Guard.
This just happened about an hour ago.
Who was in Los Angeles today. Kristi Noem was giving a press conference in downtown LA saying that the Trump administration is going to use the IRS to track down who's responsible for these riots, who's behind them. It's going to be an incredible role, and we very much look forward to figuring out who's delivering all the bricks and all the stones, all the sticks, all the gas masks, all of the leaf blowers to these protesters. But in the midst of that press conference, a brouhaha took place. No one was quite sure what was going on. There was a major interruption in the room. Here's the broadcast.
We are staying here to liberate this city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country and what they have tried to insert into this city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Also, I want to talk specifically to the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles.
A half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
I also want to talk about specifically how many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty, how they have been targeted, and how their families have been put in jeopardy, and that we're not going to allow that anymore as well. That those individuals who are purposely endangering our ICE agents and our law enforcement officers and their families will be prosecuted for what they are doing as far as perpetuating violence on them.
Well, it came to be known that the interruption was not some type of screaming, rabid Marxist activist, smooth-brained, and totally, completely cucked. Oh, wait, that's exactly what it was. It just happens to also be a senator.
U.S.
Alex
senator
is his name. He was forcefully ejected from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's press conference and thrown to the ground and then arrested. Please enjoy this angle of his
Too bad only one of you
and
gets to see
arrest.
this. Hopefully the rest of you later.
Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
I also want to talk about how many of our ICE agents have been doxxed.
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you don't my hands, go ahead, stand behind my back.
Left hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
Beautiful sight. That's a senator from California getting arrested.
I did not.
It happened about an hour ago.
Yeah, right. Is that what I'm sorry? There's no recording on that. That's my boss. I have to no recording allowed here. You can record. There's no recording allowed. I'm not a member of no recording allowed. I understand that, sir.
Alex Padilla was thrown on the ground and handcuffed after fighting with federal agents. Kristi Noem's press conference. Please charge him, of course. You're not allowed to just stomp in and bull rush Kristi Noem, which is obviously exactly what's happening here. Kristi Noem is in charge of Department of Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security oversees the Secret Service. She has high Secret Service protection. It also oversees multiple law enforcement agencies like Border Patrol and Department of Homeland Security, police, the TSA, and so on. So when you charge at the secretary, that's going to be seen, no matter who you are, as a threat. Obviously, officers put him on the ground after he crashes the press conference, put him in handcuffs. You love to see it. He better be charged, just like LaMonica, because he's clearly fighting with the federal agents. Pretty remarkable imagery, and the news out of DHS is remarkable as well. Here we go from Homeland Security. Senator Padilla chose disrespectful political theater and interrupted a live press conference without identifying himself or having his Senate security pin on. He lunged towards Secretary Noem. Mr. Padilla was told repeatedly to back off and did not comply with the officer's repeated commands. Secret Service thought that he was an attacker. The officers acted appropriately. Secretary Noem met with Senator Padilla after and held a 15-minute long meeting. So that's, well, incredibly. I wouldn't do that. I would say put him in jail. Why not put him in jail? There's a representative named LaMonica McIver, which did about the same thing. She's in the House, and she's now found guilty. She's now been indicted on 3 separate charges. May spend the next 17 years in prison for fighting with ICE agents. Senator Padilla chose disrespectful political theater, interrupted the live press conference. Yeah. Mr. Padilla was told repeatedly to back away, according to spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin, and did not comply with the officers' repeated commands. They thought he was an attacker. Kristi Noem still met with him and exchanged numbers and said that it was cordial. Alex Padilla was outside weeping and crying like a little bitch. Her words.
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, I find behind my back.
All right. Cool. One hand. Lay flat.
Anyhow, that's enough about the political stuff. Some more interesting stuff. Stuff like what you see the picture of. And this is what I want this to be about. I was fixing to do live screen when I caught that political stuff, and I figured, a senator got arrested. That'll be worth watching. But this right here is definitely worth watching. We're going to watch most of it because it's very enlightening. Get it? Lightning? Enlightening? Ha, 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 ha.
Okay. And it is prompted by a series of events.
Ooh. Okay. This is becoming very mysterious. I like it already.
And of course, like, share, and subscribe to it. I don't want to do likes.
We did a show, Star Talk Live, in Philadelphia at the Keswick Theater.
Remember
a couple years ago.
That was the Ben Franklin show.
So I'm out saying all these things about lightning based on my knowledge and understanding.
Right.
Then I got this letter.
I got it too.
You got it.
I did.
You got the letter? Yeah,
I got the letter too.
No, this is from our people listening to our show.
Exactly.
And the letter was politely highlighting
This is funny.
where I misspoke.
Okay, I'm gonna put it differently. It was like Neil don't know what he's talking about.
No, the letter was very.
It was very respectful.
Even if it wasn't, the fact is, it had clear academic chops.
Oh no, without a doubt.
And so then we're an academic show.
Yes.
You're the only thing that's not academic in the show.
Oh, and yes, exactly.
Just so you know.
Well, we can't all be. We can't be 100% academic.
So I said, why don't we bring the man on?
Yes.
And then he could tell it to my face.
Yeah.
We have Amir Risk. So tell me why you have expertise in this lightning field.
Well, I have a background in a bachelor's in physics, but more importantly, it's actually my father who inspired all this. My father is Dr. Farouk A.M. Risk, who is a world-renowned expert in the physics of lightning. He's a high-voltage engineer. He started publishing about lightning in the late 80s when I was still in school, and it fascinated me then, and I've been fascinated since. And he's still going strong. He's still publishing. His most recent publication was early this year about the stepped leader. And he's 90 years old and he's still going strong.
Wow, nice.
Okay, that's very cool.
So let's go over some of the things I said.
Every time it rains anywhere in the world, there are electrons that used to be up in the sky, in the clouds, that have arrived on Earth. And electricity doesn't like being imbalanced that way. All right? These are from ions that come out of the rain-swelled skies. And so the electrons collect. Now, if you happen to be under a thunderstorm, there'll be a lot of those electrons collecting locally. The electrons want to get back to the cloud, but they're really lazy. And so lightning, there's what's called a leader stroke that is exploring what path between the sky and the ground requires the least stress on the movement of these electrons. It finds the path, it's called a leader stroke. And the moment that leader stroke completes, the electrons surge back to the cloud, and that is the lightning bolt that we all see.
And
that
he is
most people
dead wrong.
think come from the cloud to the ground. But it's the electrons that had accumulated going from the ground back up to the clouds.
What nuance am I missing, or what more bluntly did I get wrong?
All of it.
With all due respect, Dr. Tyson, it's pretty much all wrong.
Whoa!
It seems to me that you've sort of heard some things about the separation of charges in the clouds, and then now you're applying that to the ground. I mean, the first thing we have to establish is the ground is grounded. The ground is like the solution for static charge. If you have static charge on an object and you ground it, it gets rid of the charge. It's true that raindrops could have charges on them, which would be static charge. Just like any object that you discharge by grounding, when the raindrops hit the ground, they get neutralized.
Oh, okay. So that's completely wrong.
Completely wrong.
Totally wrong.
Even if the ground is neutral, because that makes complete sense. That's what ground means.
Right.
It's the ground.
Right.
Okay, I get that.
But there's something else that happens. Let's say I don't neutralize it. Let's say I have a balloon that's full of charge and I just hold it above the ground. That creates an image. There's an induced image. We see positive charges on the ground that are an image of the balloon. That's very different. Those charges on the ground, we didn't actually add any charges on the ground. They're just an image. So that's what happens on the ground. Now, those images are very real. If that image gets very powerful, it can still produce a discharge, but it's not static charge.
I have seen actual video.
I'm actually using that principle he just mentioned about the shadowing. I'm using that principle in what I'll be doing in my work with lightning.
Footage, high-speed film of a lightning strike.
This is bad.
Where the lightning came out of the ground first and then pulled the same bolt from a cloud and made that happen. What are we looking at then?
You can absolutely produce discharges from the ground. Okay, like just say, imagine I have this balloon again. I'm never going to touch the ground, but that balloon, the charge gets more and more and more intense. It induces so much charge on the ground that the ground can produce a discharge.
Okay.
That's
the principle I'm using for when I create my lightning artwork. The principle he just mentioned, this guy here that I got my cursor on, I'm using that exact principle.
different, but that's different. The balloon can also produce a discharge with all the sparks on it, but one is an actual amount of charge and the other is an image. And you're absolutely right. There are such things that are called upward flashes. They particularly come from tall structures. But there also is like evidence of upward flashes from like volcanoes and things like that, you know. But generally speaking, they come more from man-made structures. Most lightning, though, is downward. You know, in all cases, though, even in upward flashes, the charges build up in the clouds. So there's this a huge amount of negative charge. It's moving close to the tower. As it gets close to the tower, all of a sudden the tower launches a discharge and connects with it. So that's an upward flash.
It sounds like I'm sort of right, that.
Nah, man, you're wrong, man.
Look, stop.
You're wrong.
Whose side are you on? No, we're distinguishing what happened to the electrons that dropped out of the cloud in the raindrops.
So gold,
Those
silver.
are long gone. I get that. And so now the cloud, which is we agree is positively charged because the raindrops.
Again, no, we don't agree that it's positively charged. Again, that's actually, like, if we want to get into it, let's just look at the cloud. Within the cloud, there's like air circulating, and water droplets, as they freeze, they take a different position on the triboelectric chart. So when these water droplets in different stages of freezing collide, it's like, rubbing a balloon on your hair. It's friction, and the charges separate. Then typically you get buildup of positive charge on the top of the cloud and negative charges on the bottom of the cloud. Okay, those are the actual charges. Those are like you have two balloons, a negative one on the bottom and a positive one on the top. If you take either one and put it over the ground, it'll produce an image. But in most cases, it's the negative one on the bottom, so it produces a positive image on the ground. But that positive image, like if you move the balloon, the image will do the exact same thing. It's
Right,
just a reflection.
It'll track it.
Right,
Yes,
right,
yes.
right.
Why would the positive charges ascend and the negative charges descend within the cloud?
In the clouds?
Yes.
There's friction and they're just separating, and I suppose it's a good question. Something about these particles and the friction, it seems that the ones that acquire the positive charge go up and the ones that acquire the negative charge go down.
So are you saying that the turbulence within the clouds prevents them from coming back together and neutralizing?
I guess so. You could look at it that
I've
way. The
seen
turbulence within the
that video.
cloud
I
creates
was
the
hoping
separation.
I was hoping they would show that video too.
So you get these
and I'm also using
immense
that
buildup of
principle
charge. You have
that you're talking
positive
about
all the way
here,
over there, negative
over how
all the
much
way
use
over
that
here.
principle
And for the most
and
part,
put
the
it in
discharges are in
my
between the
idea of,
clouds.
Yeah, when you see from space.
Or airplane.
Oh my God, you take an airplane flight and there's lightning all around you.
All around you, and it's all
Everywhere.
horizontal.
And it's all horizontal.
Yeah,
like cloud to cloud, just flashes, just discharging back and forth.
That would be most discharges are with cloud to cloud or within a cloud, not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, I kind of feel that, when they hit the ground, it's kind of an accident. They kind of went off course. There was a zone of positive charge at the bottom of this negative cloud. The lightning went through it and then kept going. The electric field compelled it to go to ground. But if you think about the mechanism as principally a separation of charges in the clouds, flashes in between the clouds would neutralize that. Flashes to the ground, they don't necessarily, they may cause more strikes. It's not a straightforward neutralization.
So based on what you said, then, therefore, a lightning can either go cloud, the visible stroke can go cloud to structure or structure to cloud, depending on what is doing the imaging above the ground, correct?
Right. In one case, the cloud is a negative and it produces a discharge that goes down. It heads down. As it approaches the ground, a positive discharge comes up at the last minute and connects with it. That's a negative flash. In another case, there's just negative charges in the cloud. There's no negative leader that goes down. Just an upward discharge goes all the way up and connects with the cloud. And both of these strikes could be of either polarity. They could be positive downward or positive upward. So there's 4 variations in total.
And see what he just said, there's 4 variations in total, meaning there's several different ways for a human to actually initiate a lightning strike, depending on the technique, but you'd have to stick with that one of 4 techniques all the way through to get that. And what I'm talking about is people in the Pensacola, Florida, and Mobile, Alabama, or more specifically, Gulf Shores, Alabama, and Johnson's Beach and Perdido Key, Florida. They stick lightning rods right on the shoreline, and lightning or rebar in the shoreline, and the lightning will always strike it. Not always, but 4 out of 5 times it'll strike it. And that's how they get what's known as fulgurite, the natural sand formation. So it's also known as the lightning strike capital of America. So there's something in that area of the earth as far as the thickness of the clouds or the disruption patterns of the clouds that cause that area to have a lot of lightning strikes. So the lightning strike that I'm going to try is having the positive ground forces that shoot up, which is what gold and silver was talking about, and have them shoot up. And I'm going to try and control that to where I can guarantee lightning strikes. And what I'm going through right now is figuring out like an on-off switch, because if I can actually get the positive ions from the ground to shoot up, which Gold and Silver was talking about, I need a way to turn that off because I'm going to have to go there eventually, and I don't want that a constant flow. So I'm going through different things in my mind and learning to make that happen, as well as everything else that's going on in the world that I'm doing. It's still happening, and I'm learning more, and that's where I found this, and this is very interesting.
That makes a lot of sense.
So a couple more things related to that. We all know, don't be the tallest
Thing in the thunderstorm. That's all there is to it.
I mean,
And whether don't be up in the tree, don't be on top of the house.
right on down to like the only like baseball players ever hit are the pitcher. The pitcher, they're slightly elevated
higher.
But so the Lightning is doing some physics calculation as to, I want to go to the path of least resistance, and it must hate going through the air. But we're these sacks of
But see, what he didn't say is if it's always hitting the pitcher, you got to look at the field and where would the path of least resistance be? You have the stadium all the way around and all those people, and the rest of the players are real close to them. So that's a lot of resistance. And the pitcher's in the center of the openness, which would be the least flow of resistance. So it would obviously make logical sense that the pitcher would get hit all the time, just as Neil deGrasse Tyson said. But the reason he's using for it, he thinks it's the height, and it's not.
Of salty fluid, highly conductive. So it would rather go through you to the ground than through the air to the ground at your height. Is that a fair statement?
As far as height is concerned, yes, absolutely. Height is a critical factor, but the difference in height between people is not really significant enough to make a big difference. Like even a pitcher standing on a 10-inch mound, he would technically, if all the players were the exact same height, the pitcher would have a slightly larger lightning attractive radius, but there could be somebody else on the field who's more than 10 inches taller. So these minute differences in height aren't that big a deal.
And there's some
The
real
real danger for these
coming up, too.
athletes is not just that they could get hit by lightning, but there's other things like step potentials. 50,000 amps hit here, and the footing resistance is about 100 ohms. That means the potential at this point rises to 5 million volts. So that potential is going to decay. Let's say off to the distance here, 50 meters away, it goes to zero.
This is
So
interesting.
it's 5
right
million
here.
volts here and zero over there. So for every 10 meters, we have a voltage drop of 1 million volts. And every meter, we
What's
have
up, Gerald?
100,000 volts. Step potentials are the fact that the distance between your feet
Listen to
dictates
this.
the voltage. And the longer the distance between your feet, the more that you'll experience a high voltage. In the presentation that you suggested that people, like, if they think lightning is going to happen, they should drop to the ground.
If you start feeling the hair rise up on your skin, drop to the ground immediately.
As you can see, that could really make problems worse. Like the worst thing you could do would be to be like lying on the ground on your stomach with your arms outstretched and your feet back radially towards the lightning strike, because that would maximize the voltage that would appear across your body. The thing to do if there's lightning, if you hear thunder.
Well, first off, what I get from this is if a lightning strike hits within 50 meters of you, take baby steps, because the further your steps are apart is the further the ground to ground from your step, which makes, like he showed in that illustration, if you have a 3-foot pace, that's 100,000 volts. So if you take a 6-inch step, it's only like 20,000 volts, and you won't get hit as much, and it'll have cleared that area of the electricity on a smaller voltage level, overtaking a large step. So if you're within 50-meter radius of a strike, baby step quickly the hell out of there, or do what he's fixing to say,
Go inside. You're unlikely to survive a direct lightning strike, and even if lightning is in the area, there's many ways it can injure you, even if you're not directly hit.
Could you describe for me the anatomy of a lightning stroke? What is going on?
Okay, well, I'll give you a brief description, and also I have some really cool video of it. So the most common type of lightning strike is known as a downward negative lightning. Essentially, they have a center of charge that builds up in the cloud, which produces these crazy things called step leaders. Like crazy garden hoses going nuts, spraying charges everywhere. And these things start coming down towards the ground. And as they do, they induce so much charge onto grounded objects that those grounded objects launch upward leaders that rise up and connect with them.
Okay, now what he just said is the reason why trees on top of the hills don't get hit first is because of the flow of the negative energy. And if you have a better conductor of electricity or energy penetrating in the ground far enough to take those positive ions and feed that surge upward, your device will get hit before the tree that's taller than you. And if you have something above that lightning rod that you have coming out of the ground that shadows, as he spoke of earlier, it shadows the ground that the lightning rod's coming out of, and it's also filled with water and sand. And then there's lightning rod on top of that. The percentage chances of that getting hit before any tree in that area are exponentially, from all the science that I have been able to figure out on lightning, will guarantee lightning strikes.
So this is how generally most lightning strikes go.
And this would account for the zigzagging
What's up,
of lightning
man?
that we see.
Actually, the zigzagging is actually, you'll notice that all discharges are never straight.
Yeah, never.
If ever you see, no, they never are. Like, if you think about what is an electric discharge, like a positive electric discharge is basically a plasma that's so positive that it pulls electrons away from nearby molecules. So, and it leaving positive ions. So it's positive and it's producing positive charges. So the electric field compels it to go around it, to go this way. Then it produces more charges of the same polarity. Once again, the electric field compels it to move.
See, but what he's not telling you there is when it takes those electrical charges and causes it to move, it's what's called as ionizing and purification of the air. That's why after a lot of lightning strikes, the air smells fresh, like fresh cut grass, real fresh, because of that. What he just mentioned, the plasma of the lightning causing the negative charges before its strike, making it work around it. Everywhere it's going within about 15 foot of the lightning strike, it's ionizing the air and freshening the air that we breathe.
A descending lightning leader going down produces charges of the same polarity in front of it. The electric field compels it to go around those charges. So basically, lightning is almost, or all electric discharges are almost like producing their exhaust out the front, and it's the same polarity as they are. So it compels them to twist and move and go around the charges that they're producing.
That's even when you see an arc discharge between two objects that is not a cloud. They're just stationary objects. The arc itself is never between the two of them straight. It's always up and around or down, and
it's a dynamic.
And it's
thing.
always right.
Yeah,
and it's always dynamic. It's always
Otherwise, it would
fluctuating.
Otherwise, it would just be
a little bar,
or just a bar,
right?
A constant bar.
It's always longer than the actual distance between the 2 points.
Absolutely.
You don't see the leader. You only see when the charges actually flow. Is that correct?
As far as the naked eye is concerned, for sure. Like the leader is moving far too quickly for you to see it anyways. And once the connection is made, you have the return stroke. Once this leader moves down, the upward leader comes up and connects with it. Now all these charges have a path to ground. And as luck would have it, some researchers in Brazil just a couple of years ago caught a beautiful image of this. First, you see it at 60 frames per second. Then you see it at 40,000 frames per second.
Ah, it's gorgeous.
And see, once the bottom,
you can see it caused quite a bit of damage.
It
oh
really
my gosh,
did.
that's at the tops of the buildings.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where apparently the strike was.
Amazing.
So here you can
see that right there. You can see on the bottom here where my cursor's going around, the negative or the positive charge coming up and the negative charge coming down with all those feet. He'll explain it better than me.
You can see the negative descending step leader, upward positive leaders. These are streamer zones. And here the upward connecting leader, because it's the one that made the connection, negative descending step leader. These are the basic terminology that we use. Now, you may have noticed in the video, there was that super bright period right here.
It's when they touch.
Right here is when the return stroke current happened. This was when the peak current, 50,000 amps or in that range. And that's when also the leader channel reached its maximum temperature. Like when we're around here, all these leaders, maybe 1,000 degrees, 5,000 degrees. But once we get here, this is the 30,000 degrees. And if you want to know what's actually going on in this part, so this is when the bright flash happened. The connection between the positive leader and the negative descending leader was made. And although the charges, which have just been sitting there, they're all going to start to flow towards the ground. But we're going to see light seemingly moving upward.
And that is of those very same lightning strikes, correct?
Yeah, this is explaining the negative descending step leader. So this thing came down, The positive one went up when they made contact.
This is why
all these
lightning,
charges that were
one
just
reason
sitting there
why-
and the ones in the cloud suddenly had a
One reason why lightning, you see it like stop in midair, is because part of it already touched ground and it's reversing, and you're seeing the light of the connection of all the positive ions getting sent down to ground.
path to ground, and they rushed down, and that's the return stroke, and that would be the pretty much the complete anatomy of a downward strike.
Amir, thank you very
Yeah,
much, and a special
Yes.
thanks to your dear old dad,
Yeah.
going strong at 90,
Yeah.
who is
It was an honor. Thank you so much.
I'm delighted that some people in the world are specialists in high voltage electricity.
We're so grateful for you and your dad.
Thank you so much. It's a real honor. And Lightning Electric Technologies, please visit our site. Please give me a call if you want to talk about lightning. We'd love to hear from you. If you're dealing with lightning protection, we're here for you.
It's what they do.
It's what they do. Lightning.
They do lightning.
Yeah, they do lightning, so lightning won't do
No!
you.
Okay.
I have to say, I have never.
Immense buildup of charge. You have positive all the way over there, negative all the way over here. And for the
I think
most
this is
part,
what-
the
they
discharges
showed
are
that
in between the
gold and silver.
clouds.
Yeah, when you see from space.
Yeah,
Or
this
airplane.
right
Oh my
here.
God, you take an airplane.
This is what you're talking about. Is that what you're talking about? This is above ground, above the Earth shot of lightning. There's actually 100 more lightning strikes on this above the clouds than you see with the naked eye below the clouds, because it's not that often that it reaches that connection point, and it's constantly discharging. And again, through this constant discharge that you see, this whole cloud layer, every bit of oxygen above this cloud layer,
Plane
because
fight you. There's
of that
lightning
right
all
there,
around you.
All around you, and it's all
Everywhere.
horizontal.
And it's all horizontal.
all of that cleans the air. And that is, again, why you have fresh air smell after a lightning strike or a lightning storm or lightning showers or whatever you want to call them, a storm with lightning. The air is always fresher and you know, it's a little more dangerous to live in those areas, I'm sure. But I mean, here in America, I grew up in Pensacola, Florida, which is dead in the middle of the lightning strike capital of America. And I never got struck by lightning. I lived there from, I don't know, 78 to 91, 92. So for about 13 years, I lived there. And I never got struck by lightning, but yet it's still a lightning strike capital of the world. So the lightning, there's a channel for the lightning somewhere that is constant means of that positive ions to go up. And my research, I believe I've come up with the perfect solution to generate and channel lightning specifically, repetitively to the same spot. And if I can do that, that opens up a plethora of artwork, along with other things. But right off the bat, I think artwork, never before done in the history of humanity, you know, colorized fulgurite, but it's not fulgurite because, again, as I explained to you earlier in the show, fulgurite they get from Gulf Shores, Perdido Key, and Johnson's Beach, where they stick rebar into the ground around the shoreline of the Gulf of America. And you know, some of them will hit, some of them won't hit. I don't know the percentage of hits, non-hits, but when they hit, that's called fulgurite because they're guaranteed. They know where the lightning struck the beach, because without this rebar in there, you'll never know where lightning strikes the beach. So that's and they pull it out and they get like $250 for a 4 to 6 inch piece, and it's the color of the soil on the beach. What I'm doing is I'll be like layering different colors of soils and putting different things in this, as they described it, a balloon that's going to shadow the ground, and the ground grounding rod that I have in the ground is going to be shadowed by this device that's going to be layered in different colors of sand, and then there's going to be a lightning rod above it. And you think, okay, now in Gulf of America, on Gulf Shores, Gulf Breeze, Perdido Key, Johnson's Beach area, they use rebar. And you got to look at the conductivity amount. You know, if you want a guaranteed hit, you got to increase the amount of flow of that energy. So you want to use materials that will be advantageous for that flow. So I'm going to use copper for a ground going into the ground, the physical ground, at least 5 foot with about 3 foot, 2.5 foot above it. And then I'm going to have my structure above that, shadowing that area, also filled with water. So it's going to create the same scenario of the beach, but just inland above. I'm actually going to have a better results because it's going to be above an area that's shadowed that has a lightning rod in it. And then I'm going to use a copper lightning rod on top of it to draw or to push an upward flow of the negative or positive ions from the earth up to at least the 17 to 18, 19 foot level. And I'm almost positive I can get a strike. It's never been done, so I can't say I am positive because, you know, I'll be the first. So I'll let you know if I'm positive as soon as it happens. Let's see. I'm starting to back up with chat here. Let me take this down from a side view. This is very enlightening. Yes, it is. I found it very enlightening too. I'm also going to contact them people and get some more information. But I seem to have all the same information that guy was talking to Neil deGrasse Tyson about. Yeah, exactly. Indeed. Yes, the least resistance I would imagine would be a metal pipe in the ground filled with water, unless you have some other source around there, like a house that would have a high enough lightning rod above it. And most houses nowadays don't have lightning rods. I have not seen new houses where they put those lightning rods on top of the houses. They'll have little small wires, not big wires. So they're not highly conductive. So even though houses have quote unquote lightning rods on them, they're not lightning rods. They're little 1/8 inch freaking copper cable. So a 2-inch water pipe is definitely more conductive with water in it than a 1/8 or 1/4 inch piece of copper going up around a house that's non-conductive. So I could see that very, very highly happening. Hey, what's up, Hager? Yeah, you know, I'm a space cadet, baby. I'm out there. Oh, speaking of out there, guys, here, not this week, next week, my neighbor's going to be coming back. We had an actual jam session. I went over to his studio and sat down and played the drums while he did some guitar, and he got in. And what got me over there is he had a whole bunch of deliveries that he needed help taking to his studio of records because he's opening up a bar and he's doing vinyl, and he's actually produced 3 records himself this year that he's in the band that's on the record, and he's going to give me the 3 copies, signed copies. So I'll be able to show you guys where to go to listen for that genre of music if you like it. Kind of sort of like Independent Mini, but he's not going to be here. Tony's not going to be here doing it. I'll do it for him to help him get his music out there because he seems to be more successful than most people that I've seen on local online YouTube shows. But he doesn't do YouTube shows. He's gone on world tours with one of his bands. He's in like 4 or 5 bands. So music industry's changed since I was in it doing pyrotechnicians back in the 80s. You know, you just stick with one band till they break up or fire you, and then you go to another band. Apparently nowadays, you take your talent and add it to other people's, and they get together as a conglomeration, make a band, and then you do that a couple times, and you're in 2 or 3 or 4 bands. There's a lot of science that I want to have done. If I can perfect a repetitive lightning strike to the same area, the amount of science that opens up will be astronomical. So is it possible? I don't know. We'll do the science on it. Let's figure it out. And I'm also going to have the Economic Ninja help me get out the information to scientists and science people and academies that I would like them to come and do science on this if I can get repetitive strikes, because there is no actually that I know of actual science being done on lightning strikes because they have a hard time getting repetitive strikes. So therefore, why set up tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment if you're not going to get a guaranteed strike? So they're having hard times measuring shit and getting good science off of it. So although it won't be, I mean, they have very occasionally done this to where they do have science on it, but I'll be adding to that science, hopefully, if they accept my offers, for them to come out and do their science on this object, if I can successfully get it to give me consecutive strikes. I'm not sure about that one, but maybe. It took lightning. It took the power to that just shows there's enough power in a lightning strike to do a theoretically, physically, mathematically possible with the theoretical power that they believe is in a lightning strike compared to what's needed to have perceived time travel. Because it would take extraordinary amounts of power to do physics-wise, it would take a lot of power to do a time travel event. And lightning would be perfect for that because it's free power going to, being discharged into ground or into the earth. Sorry, I'm taking a hit. Let's see, let's get back here. Sweet. Oh, dude, Pyrotechnician was so fun. I didn't drink, so it was cool. I get into all these bars for free. There's different rules inside, outside. Inside, my Pyrotechnicians was limited to smoke bombs, basically, because of fire hazards. But outside, I did a lot of cool shit. And, I covered the Southeast Circuit of America in the Alabama, northern Pensacola, Louisiana area. I worked for Mad Hatter, Dante Fox, and another band that right off the top of my head I don't recall, but I know Dante Fox got a contract with Sony, and Sony gave him like a $400,000 touring van, and they went on like a 13 state circuit for a rock and roll circuit on the smaller scale, and they didn't want a Pyrotechnician going with them, so I didn't go with them. I just stayed in my little area of their bigger circuit. Let's see, like a flex capacitor, yes, Tiger, like a.
Hey Neil, thanks for having me up.
Hey, no problem.
I just came up because I got one question for you.
Dun dun dun.
It's easier than typing it. Yeah, I was thinking. So with the lightning coming up, part of the charge is coming up from the ground and part of it is coming from the sky.
Yes.
Okay, so
that's one of 4 ways it's created.
So given all of the metals that we know that are in the ground, I wonder to what degree they help or assist with that electricity coming up from the ground. And then
go ahead.
Right. So then part 2 is with all the mining that we've done and been pulling all of these metals out of the ground, how much, if part 1, is a significant effect, for part 2, like how negative do you think it is?
It's negligible because the minerals like gold, for example, that's in the ground has just, and I did an actual report on this about a year ago where a guy discovered, I believe he was in Hawaii metal detecting, and he decided for funny to take and metal detect over an old lava flow. And he actually found like a couple ounces of pure fucking gold up underneath the lava flow, but yet at the top part of the lava flow, because the gold was lighter than the heavier materials that solidified. But it was solidified underneath about a ½ inch of that black rock, and it was pure fucking gold. And I just saw another report about a month ago where someone else found pure gold coming out of lava flow. So it's happening at miles under the ground. The top surface crust, which would be about, I think, 20 miles of Earth, is not where that process takes place. Okay. And the lightning doesn't go down that far to bother it. Because the way that gold and all these things are brought to the surface is through tectonic shifting. That's why you usually find gold in mountain ranges, in any mountain range, because that's two plates colliding, pushing upward that which was down low.
Well, I was even thinking all the copper too. Like how many millions of tons of copper have been pulled out of the ground?
I'd be concerned right off the bat. I saw there is a literal mountain of pure copper above ground they just discovered after a slight tremor in Democratic Republic of Congo. It is several hundreds, if not thousands of tons of damn near pure copper in a big old freaking, it was like the picture I saw, it was at least 180, well, maybe 150 foot tall by at least that wide. And I don't know how deep it was. And it was almost pure copper. So there's other things about lightning, because I would think that would constantly draw lightning, obviously.
Well, it's a beautiful conductor.
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't. So there's more to be learned about lightning. We don't know it all.
Yeah,
And
like so how they were showing it dispersing along the ground. Like to me, without even trace metal elements in there, it might not do that.
That's why I wanted to, if I can perfect, and hi, Tom, if I can get my lightning thing working repetitively, and I can get scientists there doing experiments and stuff, we might come up with answers for this stuff, because they're all good questions that's really, that I know of, don't have an answer to, because we haven't done enough science on lightning. Because the ability to recreate or have a spot that constantly brings in lightning has, that to my knowledge, there was a government study where they did this like 1 mile round thing, and to draw lightning in, and it struck this object that they had several times, but not in the same spot. So even though they had lightning strike this one area and they were able to do certain sciences, they couldn't do exact sciences and repetitive sciences because they couldn't get it to strike in the same spot. So when I say the science hasn't been done, it has, but specifically it hasn't, because they haven't been able to replicate it, to my knowledge, unless there's a black project or something out there, which I don't know about because it's a black project. They don't have anything that repetitively will cause the lightning strike to the same spot again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And I believe I found one that will.
Random like a fingerprint until Neil came along.
I'm always good for throwing a wrench in things that worked.
Yeah. Well, what do they say? If you can change the supply curve, you're in.
Yeah. Or I can make a supply curve and I'm rich. Because if I could not manipulate, but if I can get a device that could direct the negative or the positive ions to go up to where we would get a lightning strike every time the conditions were right, I would be able to theoretically do all kinds of sculpture type shit along with other artwork type shit that's never been done in history. And that has, I would imagine, looking at the, what is that, Mona Lisa, that one of a kind artwork's pretty valuable. So,
yeah,
if it's never been done before in history, I'm thinking I could make some money, on top of the science. What's up, Knackers?
Hey, Knackers. Good to see Tom as well.
But yeah, lightning, it's an interesting thing. And again, if you do research, you'll find out that Northwest Florida, Southeast Alabama is known as lightning strike capital of America, because for some reason, like if you go to there's a channel, it's like a lightning strike channel, and if you go there and you look at the amount of X's right above Pensacola and Mobile, you won't even be able to see Pensacola and Mobile because there's so many damn X's of lightning strikes. If there's a thunder shower in that area at the time that you're looking at it. And anywhere else in America, it's not nearly that severe of lightning strikes. And that's why it's known as the lightning strike capital of America. So there's got to be something either in the ground or something that causes that area of America to get so many more strikes, because there's more areas along the Gulf of America just than that area. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of coastlines. So it can't but just be the coastline itself if it's consistent to that area. So there are other dynamics, like what you mentioned of maybe underground stuff, that causes that area of America to generate those many lightning strikes.
Hey, William and Silver Ruger.
Oh, wow. I didn't see you guys. What's up? So there's a lot of possibilities. No one that I'm aware of, and they might have, and it's quite possible they did, and I just haven't found the research, but no one I'm aware of has done the research to answer a lot of the questions that you've brought up and that I have.
You know,
And looking at Neil deGrasse Tyson putting out false information, he doesn't even know the real shit. So if you got real people who are real smart putting out false information about it because there's not enough science or knowledge on it, it's an open field, basically.
I have a feeling that Nikola Tesla actually did study
Oh yeah.
this sort of thing.
There's 22 books of his that are missing that probably have all that information in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when his books, his cases were delivered back to his family in Austria to do their museum, I believe they signed for 54 cases, and on the shipping manifesto leaving America, I think there was 76 cases that left, but only 54 got delivered.
Yeah.
And
Like, even when I'm looking at that picture that you have up there with it's like raining lightning, right?
Yes, it is.
It reminds me of a video game that I used to play called Command and Conquer Red Alert. And it was a military game. So you had the Soviets, the Allies,
Yeah.
as the main playable characters. But the Soviets had, probably due to Nikola Tesla, Tesla towers, Tesla tanks that were all able to zap.
Well, see, if you can do that, why don't you just do what the picture says and throw up a wall of lightning heading towards your enemy?
Yeah. And so in that video game, it actually showed a lot of technology that never really became public. It was just showing it, what do you call it, disinformation? Like showing actual technology, but showing it in a way where it's like, oh, it's animated and it's not real. But a lot of it actually turned out to be real.
The thing that I've learned about the Tesla free energy system, where the energy goes around the world and whatnot, and what people believe some people believe the pyramids were actually used for, was that free energy system is the system that we use currently, that our current computers, TVs, cell phones, planes, and electronics work off of, is not that electrical supply system. So if the world shifted over to that type of power system, to where there was free energy out there, none of our devices would work. We'd have to remake computers to accept power in a different format and work than what they work now off of, because they're only geared off of accepting power one way. Some of the computers probably would work, some of the cell phones, some of the cars, but there'd be major power disruptions if you shifted over. It's AC/DC current delivery system, from my understanding.
Yeah, and it depends too on what device you're talking about.
Yeah, like I said, some would, some wouldn't.
Yeah,
but it would disrupt the whole system of economics.
Here, I'm just going to mute up for a minute.
Sure.
I'm looking for a screen to share, but I don't want to.
Yeah, not a problem, man.
Okay, I'm just going to mute up.
Everything breaks down to the math. That's as a matter of fact, Chris Langan, I did a live stream where it showed him. He mathematically broke down proof that not only is there a God, but there is a Satan, and he broke it on down. He was like, if you can understand what he's saying, it all makes sense, and it's logical, and it fits, and it's all one. Everything is one. It's all God broken down into the separate elements of us, tables, cats, dogs, all being of God. He did a lot better explanation of it than I do. He's so much more intelligent. Yeah, it might be that easy. Well, there's a, you got to get a lot of people thinking properly before they can believe the truth. And as you can see what's happening down in LA, a lot of people think the truth is different than what it is. They seem to think that truth means you can destroy things and you should get credited and praised and rewarded for destroying things. So in their mind, that truth is different than our version of truth. You know what I'm saying? And again, going biblical, since you want to go that way, it says so in the Bible. At the end times, there's going to be a lot of lost souls. Don't waste your time on them, basically. Not exact quotes. So, yeah, don't try and save everyone, because not everyone's going to be saved. And wasting time trying to save someone that's not to be saved means that you missed an opportunity to save someone that could be saved. So it's up to you to realize who you can and cannot save, and trying to save everyone, obviously, is a waste of time. So only do, and this is why I say this every now and then, I do what I can where I'm at while I'm there. And that's the basic premise of what I've done. I've figured out with quote unquote religion inclusive with spirituality, because I do not control things beyond where I'm at while I'm there. So I can only make change on things while I'm there, while I'm there at that time. And anything beyond that, I am not responsible for. So too many things are going on for me to concentrate on everything else and not what I'm doing. Because if I do that, then what happens is I am not following God's path for my life. And then I become a sinner because I got sidetracked doing something that shouldn't be done, because he told us it can't be done. Okay, JM's got something here for us. Let's see what he's got.
Yeah, so this is not the version that I was talking about, but it still gives you the idea. And it's called Tesla. These are Tesla tanks, as you can see in the title on it.
Yeah.
And it just kind of shows electricity being used in warfare. So here, I'll mute and hit play.
Yeah, and you see how it spreads out. They did a good job with that, artists, when they went into the ground. Oh, see, so that's where you got your idea of it traveling through the ground with minerals. Is by the way that works. By the way they're showing that, how it's traveling along the ground and then hitting targets coming from the ground, and it's consecutively moving along the ground. So you would believe that there would be some sort of a mineral composition under the ground that it's following to do that until it gets to something that's more conductive to it to strike and destroy.
Yeah, it leads me to believe that Nikola Tesla was all over that, because that's Soviet technology that it's showing. Knockers, that's a really old game. Like the one that I was playing was Command and Conquer Red Alert. I played the very first one. I went through the whole thing, and it was awesome back then. I think it was around the 1990s.
Mm-hmm. They were coming up with good technology for gaming back then.
Oh, it was fantastic. So much fun. I literally probably spent a couple thousand hours playing.
Dude,
but the older version, the one that I was showing here, I think is Command and Conquer 2. Yeah, Red Alert 2. So like the updated version. And I couldn't find anything on YouTube on the first one. Sorry to go a little bit off topic.
Oh, no, not at all. Speaking of gaming, I think back in 2002 or 2003, probably more around 2001 or 2002, there was a game. It first came out. It was called Diablo, and they had a worldwide competition. Online gaming was getting big back then. They had this worldwide competition, and I took 3 days sitting in front of the computer, and the character I had got in ranking. I was up in the top 100 in the world of competitors, and there were several million people playing.
Right on. I know my buddy really liked Medal of Honor, and my one other friend played Siphon Filter, which was a less known one, but still really, really good. I think kind of similar to Diablo.
Lightning proves that to be true, in my opinion, is that statement there from William. Because we wouldn't have lightning if there wasn't energy up there. And the guy in that video with Neil deGrasse Tyson was explaining that the friction that causes the ions separate from positive and negative happen inside the cloud, And that's where they get the feelers from, because they get build up too much energy. And that's why if you're above the cloud, you see more electrical discharges or lightning charges than you do underneath where we're at. Because it doesn't have the positive to ground to. It's very selective. And that's what interests me about lightning, why the Gulf Coast of Alabama and Northwest Florida are the lightning strike capitals of America. And they always get so much lightning because there's a lot of Gulf Coast area with cities and everything. Why would that one area be so particular to lightning striking when the storms come up from the Gulf of America? It's just bizarre to me. Let me see if I can go to... Trying to pull up a map. Okay, well, it's not storming there now. I'll do a share screen here. Sorry about that. This is active right now. So that tells where the storms are. And you see up in this area above New Orleans, it's real hitting heavy. But you see those little red and yellow. If there are storms coming up, and this storm here obviously already came through, but as it was coming up, you would see this area right here filled with the bigger strikes that they're showing. Let me back off. These bigger ones that are like the double round ones. As a matter of fact, right just north of Pensacola, you can see a multitude of them between Pensacola and Montgomery. So this area here already got its lightning strikes because this storm system right here already moved up northeast going through hitting the panhandle. But when it hit the panhandle, all those lightning strikes right there. So if you go to real-time lightning strike maps when there's a storm just hitting the Gulf Coast and look at this, and you see there's like right here in Mississippi, you see a lot of strikes, fresh ones pop up, and it gives that little ripple effect on it. It's his live feed. You'll see that going nonstop in this area. All you'll see is that reverberation. Where right now it's kind of random and not consistent. And also that's why I like that area, because you can see, as far as if I back up a little bit, it's kind of sort of the best area. Now, if I could go to Cuba, that'd be pretty cool to get an area. And I don't want to do this area because, you know, there's a lot of alligators around there. Around here, there's actually not a lot of alligators. I mean, they got alligators, but there's not many. Over here, you got alligators galore. And they start coming in right here, but right here, there's not that many. But anyhow, back to the show. Sorry about that interruption.
That's really neat.
But anyhow, I basically just wanted to show that one thing on lightning strikes is I know Neil deGrasse Tyson and myself, and I didn't state it publicly because who the fuck would without I was going to say he was totally wrong on lightning strikes. But now he found out from someone smarter than him that he actually was wrong, and he came up with a video correct, which I give him respect for. He showed a video saying he was totally fucking wrong.
I'm going to drop down, Neil. I just had that one question I wanted to pop up for.
I appreciate it very much. Yeah, I'm going to be ending the stream anyhow because, like I said, I just wanted to show those two. And now, if you want to talk about the first thing I showed, where a senator from California got arrested today, we can talk about that.
Okay, I missed your part of the show, but I did notice someone else was streaming about that specifically.
Yeah, there was a senator from California rushed the stage in the Homeland Security's building where Naomi was giving a TV talk to the people, an update or whatever. And he rushed up in the stage, shows the whole video. And then they threw him on the ground, cuffed him. But they didn't arrest him. But that right there, I guarantee you, helped end the protests. Because anytime you see a senator get thrown down and cuffed because he broke the law, and then she chose not to press charges, okay, that sends a signal right there of no one's above the law. And that's going to push a lot of buttons on and also they said they're getting in touch with the IRS. And I think, I don't know who said that. I think it was Pam Bondi said the IRS is helping them follow the money with who funded it.
What are the chances that that was a setup, where they actually...
I think it was a setup because I think he had information that he couldn't give unless he got arrested to talk himself out of it, give his leverage to get out of jail. But he wanted to give the information, but he had to save face with the people he's been taking money from.
Right. Yeah. It's usually a little more sophisticated than appears on the surface.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. Because if you look at it, the bullshit he was saying as he was rushed out the room didn't make sense at fucking all. It didn't make sense at fucking all. So I instantly thought there was another motive for him to do what he did other than to make a statement.
Yeah. Well, and you may have even answered your own question on that, right? Like you said for sure that's going to dampen the protesters' aggression.
Uh-huh.
Right. And maybe that was part of it. But yeah, I found it odd that so much of the National Guard and Marines and all that are there, but it's like everything that I saw, I watched a lot of it. They're just standing there, like 99% of it. They're not doing anything that I can see other than just being a presence.
Exactly. Making a presence. And that's all they need to be at this point in time, because the powers that be weren't expecting it, in my opinion. And it's only my conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Hold up a second here. I need to throw up some banners here just in case. Because I'm going into land that'll give me a strike here, and I don't want to strike. My theory is the political people in power in California have been taking money from places they probably shouldn't be. And the people who've been giving them that money were expecting outcomes that they are still following through with. And Trump by name obviously trumped their plans by doing what he's doing. So that way, again, the people in power in California can still kind of save face with the people who have funded their political rises to supremacy while still not allowing things to get out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like allowing us insurrection, but controlled enough not to get out of hand, which means staged, which means paid actors.
Managed.
Managed, which means, and they've already mentioned they're going with IRS records for purchases of this, that, and the other. So all that information for people who are intelligent enough to put things together that would be considered an insurrection. Mm-hmm. If you're intelligent to know that, put it together, you'd know right now that you need to drop and run. Which means there's not going to be that many more violent protests.
So is it like a controlled demolition or a controlled transition?
Controlled demolition.
Out with the old and in with the new, like.
They were hoping we would be more Islamic, submissive, in the true meaning of the word Islam, submission. They were hoping that people would be more submissive because of all the tyranny that we've put up with so far. We're the most taxed, the most regulated state in the freaking union, and we seem to accept it, which we don't. But through their, and here's an interesting thing: we found out the Dominion voting machines were fraudulent. But yet every fucking Californian got their position using the Dominion voting machines. And we're still following the laws that got passed with those Dominion voting machines. And what I mean by that is like our guerrilla caucuses and our all the laws that got passed to keep other parties from even having a half-assed chance of winning. All those were used and passed by using these Dominion voting machines. But those laws haven't been looked at to be changed to where we could have a more fair and free system of voting and political leadership here in California. They've kind of sort of made it a dictatorship of Democrats, and it's not by the will of the people.
Everything should be rescinded.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
That's happened since if you can tell that the voting system's fraudulent, then
yes, exactly.
Everything that's happened under that fraudulent regime needs to be withdrawn. Yeah, that's a massive lawsuit. I wonder if it's actually going on and we're just not listed as beneficiaries on it.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
I don't know.
But there's, I got some conspiracies, and I'm seeing things that aren't usual. So that's feeding my conspiracies. But like this is the first time I've talked about that one, and it is just a conspiracy. It's not.
It's just a theory. It's a theory.
A story You know, just like my little banner said.
It's a theory.
So, but it seems to be that way because, and that kind of goes because if you remember when Trump a couple weeks ago he landed in California and Newsom bum rushed him on the freaking tarmac. Trump was not expecting to meet with Newsom on that tarmac. He found out Trump was coming. He rushed down there, fucking went up and introduced himself without, so he could get time with the president, or I don't know what, but they talked about something for a little bit, and it wasn't on his agenda. I do know that because at least not the public agenda.
Mm-hmm.
That was a total, and no one keeps talking about that. So I don't, there's a lot of peculiarities going on with this. I see fingerprints on.
Yep.
It's not natural. It's staged.
Yep. It's all over the place. Like even just the US dollar itself has been under a controlled demolition, right? They didn't want it to ever crash, but it's a slow drawn, as long as they keep it off of gold, what else? And they keep inflating the monetary system. What else could you call it?
Well, we got to study history. We haven't always used an American dollar in America.
That's right.
And, back, I say this many times, 1836 to 1862, there was no such thing as an American dollar. The Congress gave banks the authority, if they followed the regulatory this, that, and the other of the time, and they did, to create their own money, their own bank money, and they competed for the citizens and the individuals that they did business with for their business. And what that did is it made the greatest time of prosperity for the Americans in centuries, because you had banks competing for your business. In other words, they were given better interest rates on savings and lower interest rates on loans, which is the exact opposite of what we have now. So what the government's done, and the Congress, from my understanding, already passed this law allowing financial institutions to create a digital token backed one for one with the dollar. So if we're layering a digital economy on top of our economy, which is happening, has been for years, to do that would, first off, I believe it's M2 money supply that causes hyperinflation, a flooding of M2 money supply.
Well, both M1 and M2.
Okay, well, if that is true and that is going to happen,